This is Abdul Saad, clinical psychologist at Vital Mind Psychology here in Sydney, Australia. You can catch me at my website, vitalmind.com.au, and check me out on Facebook. Just search for Vital Mind Psychology. I've been very heartened with the feedback and the number of views that I've received for the previous 3 videos I've uploaded in my attempt to further assist empaths develop a more sophisticated understanding of themselves. And in that regard, I'm always open to assisting you individually in one-on-one sessions, no matter where you are in the world. That can be organized via Skype, via Zoom. And if that's something that interests you, please get in touch with me via my website, vitalmind.com.au. There's a contact page there, contact form. And you'll also find my email on that page if you want to get in touch with me directly. So what I want to discuss in today's video is one of the key mistakes that begins to crystallize in the mind of the empath following them being hurt in relationships, especially with narcissistic personality disordered individuals. And one of these I'm calling it a mistake, but actually it's a psychological stage that we all go through after we have been traumatized. And that is we become more polarized in our view of reality. We tend to begin to divide the world after a traumatic event into us versus them. And the empath is no different. And essentially one of the dichotomies the empath begins to live is that between victim and persecutor. The empath begins to believe that they are the victim and the majority of the people in their lives are persecutors. So the empath in trouble that is, begins to inhabit this polarized, highly dichotomized view of their interpersonal relationships. And what I want to go through briefly today is what are some of the disadvantages and pitfalls if you as an empath remain stuck at this stage. Because as I said, initially this makes sense because it serves to protect us against being vulnerable to any more predatory personalities. But if we persist in this stage, it has some definite disadvantages. Now, the first one obviously is that it's not a very accurate or sophisticated representation of reality. Because it's so polarized and dichotomized, so black and white, it gives us a very grainy rather than a fine-tuned perception of reality, of other people, and of our relationships. In addition, if these are the only 2 categories that you recognize in interpersonal relationships, anyone that doesn't go along with your victim narrative, anyone that does not affirm your victim narrative, by default becomes in this category a persecutor, including people who are on your support team, including, for example, a therapist like myself, who, if you were to see me individually, my approach is not to mollycoddle you, is not to say, yes, you have been the victim, but my approach is to be very direct, very matter of fact, to affirm your pain, but also to affirm that it is your responsibility to deal with what has happened, and it is also your responsibility to take a critical forensic look at what has happened in the past and to take responsibility for the things that you do need to take responsibility for in order to grow. Now, the victim mentality for the empath is highly seductive. And this is quite common because it absolves the empath of any responsibility. And it's seductive in that it gives us this soft, cozy, comfortable way of perceiving the world. Because essentially this is how a stereotype or a prejudice operates. It's cognitively lazy, less effortful, and it makes us feel self-satisfied that we have the answer to why people do what they do. They must be persecuting us, or they must not be on our side, including those people who do not affirm the fact, or what we believe to be the fact, that we are a victim and we are in the victim role. Now, because this view of the world is so simplistic and polarized, it actually hampers the empath in the longer term to develop a more sophisticated understanding of other people and other personalities. In fact, I want to just reach for my computer here. I want to read a comment left by a lady called Sue Cruz on my previous video about the empath in trouble. It's well worth reading because Sue, I think, beautifully illustrates the point I'm trying to make. And she says, this series is superb. I find 3 years after my last narcissist and working hard on myself, I haven't become misanthropic, thank God. When I meet someone new now, I quiet myself and listen carefully to my gut, and I trust it in a way I never did before. I don't want to spend the rest of my life distrustful and critical of others, so others are persecutors. I still find I am open to others, but I listen more carefully and filter information. And this is really beautifully expressed by Sue, that for the empath that has been hurt, and basically being hurt in your life is the foundation of becoming a wise person, becoming someone that has attuned interpersonal skills. There's a level of suffering. That's the price we pay for that. But in order to rise above this very polarized view of reality, we need to move beyond just seeing things in a black and white way. So, excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to get my notes back up. So, as I was saying, paradoxically, although this serves initially to make the empath feel safe in the world, because I now safely divide the world between victim and persecutor, in the long term, it actually enfeebles the empath. It makes them a lot less sophisticated when it comes to being accurately having a more fine-tuned, sophisticated sense of people, because not everyone is going to fit into either a victim or persecutor role. And someone that you think is a persecutor may in fact be your best advisor, someone that really has your true interests at heart if you would listen and see beyond the surface of what they're saying. Now, the other negative of this approach for the empath is the empath then begins to surround him or herself in an echo chamber of victimhood and resentment. And unfortunately, this is probably a lot of what happens on these online forums and Facebook groups where misery loves company, and misery is heaped upon misery, and we're the victims, and all these people are evil. Not helpful. Now, one of the very important things here is I'm not here to say empaths have not been victimized. Certainly, an empath that has been through horrendous experiences with a narcissistic, predatory individual, there is a level of victimization there. But the key distinction here is, although that was not all the empath's fault, and I'm not suggesting for a moment it was, it is still the empath's responsibility to deal with that. It is still the empath's responsibility to have an accurate appraisal of actually what went wrong and how they can grow from it. And as I said, this is perfectly fine as an initial phase to see the world in this polarized way after you've been hurt, but to remain stuck here is to really limit your growth, and this will limit your capacity to grow in wisdom and in love, and to be able to be a much more sophisticated, well-attuned, emotionally intelligent person that can pick up nuance and subtlety in interpersonal relationships and in the energy that other people give. So hopefully that was of some assistance today. As I said, I am open. If you found my videos to be helpful to you, it's not that complicated to get in touch with me. We can organize a session via Skype or Zoom. Get in touch to have a chat about what that involves, including cost. And I want to thank you for your continued support. Please press like on the video, and I will continue with this series. I think in general with these series, they go for about 6 videos. So this is video number 4. So hopefully there's 2 more videos in store for you. And thanks again. Take care. See you next week, God willing.